Greetings from Costa Rica, folks. I hope you're doing well. It's July 31st, 2022, and today we'll be giving a quick roundup of Costa Rica's July news, especially what's relevant to you expats considering moving to Costa Rica. And then, as we always do on the last Sunday chat of the month, we'll do our monthly question and answer roundup with questions like that have been submitted by viewers like you over the last month. If you want to get your question answered in next month's roundup, be sure to post them in the comments, whether you're watching this video live or a replay later. Again, today, after we go over July news, some of the things we're going to cover are questions that viewers had about the investor status residency. We have a question about humidity in Guanacaste. One viewer had asked whether it's possible to find a 3-bedroom place near Tamarindo under $200,000. And finally, we'll wrap up with a quick discussion of exterior building costs that one viewer had submitted following an interview with Doug Stern last week. Let's first start out with some big news for people moving to Costa Rica. In July, this past month, as of the 8th, the digital nomad law was officially implemented by the Costa Rica national government. Now, this is a very interesting point to discuss because remember, this law was originally published, or rather, it was agreed to and signed into law itself in November of 2021. I apologize. It was September 1st of 2021 that this bill was signed into law. It's number 10008, the digital nomad law. And exactly 284 days after it was signed into law, the bill was implemented this July 8th by the national government. So you can see there was an almost year-long gap between the bill being passed and the actual implementation this July. If you're unfamiliar with the digital nomad law, essentially it will allow visitors to apply for a visa to stay in Costa Rica for up to 2 years if they can prove that they have $3,000 monthly income if they're an individual applying, or $4,000 a month if it's a family applying for this visa. You don't have to pay income tax here in Costa Rica on your foreign earned income. The bill also allows you a tax exoneration for bringing equipment into the country related to your job. And more than anything, it will give you that ability to stay in the country without leaving every 90 days for up to that 2-year period. Although if you're applying for the visa, you can do so for shorter periods of time. The government has created an online portal for these applications called Trámite Ya. Trámite would be the Spanish word for a kind of application or any kind of bureaucratic process, and Ya is now. And they say that they will be able to process digital nomad visa applications in 2 weeks. We'll see if their prediction on that time is as accurate as the original timeline for putting this bill into effect, which was supposed to be November of last year. So they missed that by about 8 months. Next, let's go on to a quick weather update here in Guanacaste. July normally brings a period where the rainy season takes a break here in our part of the country, the northwestern province of Costa Rica. And it's absolutely one of the most gorgeous times of year if you catch it. They call it El Veranillo, or the little summer. It's also called La Canícula. And in the middle of the rainy season, which so far this year we've had somewhere above 70 inches of rain. It's been an enormously rainy May and June and July. But anyway, normally in July, you get about 2 weeks of these breezy, dry conditions that interrupt the rainy season. I'm going to have Danielle play some clips of just the gorgeous weather that we have going on right now here in Guanacaste. Here you can see everything is gorgeous, blue skies, breezy conditions. We're actually seeing that the humidity drops off significantly. And if we're lucky, we'll get these conditions for 2, maybe 3 weeks as sort of a little break in the dry season. Again, I'm sorry, a break in the rainy season. Again, it's called La Canicula or El Veranillo, and it's something that Guanacastecos can pretty much depend on seeing here in July. Next news item, I want to touch on the new Costa Rica president, Rodrigo Chavez, who is polling very well in the country as he builds good popularity based on an image of being a tough talking, anti corruption, reform minded president. Shortly after he came into office, he immediately signed into law a reform aimed at improving the national electrical service, or rather, their accounting standards, and a lot of things about how ISE operates. And very quickly, he's gained a lot of popularity with Costa Ricans by personifying sort of a character who's willing to stand up and speak his mind, and very, in a lot of situations, be confrontational to the powers that be. There was one particular instance, as Costa Rica's government passed a number of incentives last year. One program was called the Bono Proteger, which was basically a direct payment to Costa Ricans to deal with the economic impact of COVID. That Bono Proteger was not supposed to be paid to public employees, but accidentally it was paid to 1,300 or more government officials that were not supposed to receive it. Chavez has come out very strong on that front and insisted that not only should the employees be giving back the payments that they mistakenly received, but now he's threatening to publish lists of the names of those public officials who do not send back the payment that they received in error. So that's made him very popular on one front. In another battle, he was really squaring off with Grupo La Nación, a huge media company here in Costa Rica. There are public entities that have invested in bonds issued by Grupo La Nación, and the president, very much in the middle of sort of publicly tangling with the company, insisted that they would need to, he sort of questioned their finances and set a government entity after looking into how that group, the company is operating and whether or not they're going to be able to pay back those bonds. In the middle of this public relations battle, the Costa Rica government shut down a huge event center called Parque La Viva in Alajuela that is owned by this media group. Now, the reason that the government shut down the event center was reportedly the huge traffic problems it creates when they hold events. But very much everyone is sort of scratching their chin and thinking that the government is being strong-armed in dealing with this company and very much acting sort of confrontationally with them at the president's behest. But long story short, whether he's calling out ex-presidents or really sort of speaking his mind on a lot of issues. He's becoming a popular president using this image. You saw him, putting on his boots and visiting a very northern extreme part of the country that no president has visited before. And that was a very successful public relations moment for him as well. He's becoming this sort of champion of the people and somebody who's viewed as being down to earth and sort of more accessible than previous presidents. So you're seeing, at least, for once, one of the positive things that I'm seeing here in the country is that I don't hear quite as many people being absolutely negative about the direction the national government is headed. There's definitely some optimism that this brash, reform-minded president is going to change a few things and actually improve the government. But he's only been in power since May 8th. We will see how things progress over the next 4 years. And you can be guaranteed that in Costa Rica, the other political parties are going to try and stymie his agenda and any progress made towards significant reforms, because very often in this, multi-party system here in Costa Rica, you see the parties that are not in power really trying to prevent the parties that are in power from accomplishing anything. And I'm sure that time will take its toll on the momentum that President Chavez currently has behind his government. Let's turn to viewer questions over the last month. And again, Danielle will be watching your live chat. If you have questions you want me to address in the next broadcast, be sure to put the comments there now. As a quick heads up, every Sunday at 11 a.m. Costa Rica time, I'll be doing my live Costa Rica chats to present you with information that I hope will empower you to make a smart decision about whether moving to Costa Rica is right for you. And if you've already moved here, I hope to empower you to enjoy the country more, to understand what's happening, and to be a better resident. So do be sure to tune in for these 11 a.m. Sunday morning Costa Rica chats, where we will cover all manner of topic, from construction to weather to pools to HOA fees, etc. And of course, subscribe to my channel because it'll make me feel just great about myself. The first investor status residency question that we had was a viewer asking whether investor status can lead to permanent residency. And absolutely it can. Many people are excited by the new investor status bill that allows you to put $150,000 investment into Costa Rica and to be able to get your residency for periods, I believe, of 2 years under the program. Now, if you hold investor status for a total of 3 years, you can then apply for your permanent residency. And the same residency attorney who helped you with the initial investor status process can also help you with the process of upgrading to permanent residency. You've got that 3-year period where you need to hold investor status, and then you would reapply for permanent residency with your original attorney. I had an excellent chat on my channel with Andrea Rojas, who's associated with P&D Lawyers in Tamarindo. She's a wonderful residency attorney, and I've now had several people work with her and contact her as a result of the video. They've been extremely happy with her services. Another question related to that investor residency status was whether the $150,000 that you have to invest, can that cover both spouses, and whether or not that $150,000 can be used to purchase vacant land or if it has to be a house or condo. So yes, when you invest $150,000, your investment applies to your nuclear family. Everybody can get residency through your investment, from your spouse to your kids. So that 150,000, you don't have to double it to include your spouse. Obviously, you'll be asked to supply paperwork that demonstrates your marriage. And this investment of $150,000 does not have to be for a house or condo. It can be for vacant land. It can also even be for vehicles. Really, you have to have $150,000 in titled goods to your name. Now, I say titled goods, that's an important distinction. You cannot purchase a concession or a leasehold of coastal property and have that investment be considered as your qualifier for investor status. You can purchase vehicles, land, or any of those titled goods. And when you have $150,000 invested, get your investor status residency. Interestingly, to tie back into the fact that the digital nomad law is now implemented almost 1 year after it was signed into law, everybody is anxiously waiting for the rest of those incentives associated with investor status residency to go into effect as well. We're awaiting to hear that you can bring up to 2 vehicles tax-free into the country and a container of your household goods under this program. That part of the law has still not been implemented on the ground. Everyone wants to hear that they've actually got the system up and running for you to be exempt from those taxes to import. It is still pending, even though the law to attract foreign investors was passed over a year ago in June of 2021. So you cannot yet import all of that stuff tax-free simply because the on-the-ground implementation of this law has not actually happened. Our next question from viewers was about the humidity in Guanacaste and whether you get a lot of it. Well, the short answer is that in Costa Rica, the relative humidity is much higher than countries at higher latitudes. And in fact, the average annual humidity for our region is 74% relative humidity. If you go further south, you see average annual humidity numbers that go up to 80 or 90% even at the very southern extreme of the country. So that's the tropics. The humidity is higher here than drier regions at more extreme latitudes, and nothing will change about that. But Guanacaste, and in particular, the northwestern part of Guanacaste, has a significant dry season from December through April that is a stark contrast to our rainy season. And most importantly, not only do you have this dry season, but throughout the rainy season, there are beautifully dry moments where the relative humidity at least drops a bit and you're not dealing with oppressive, constant rain and that thick relative humidity year round. So during our dry season, December through April, yes, the relative humidity here is still higher than what you would see in the winter in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, etc. But during our dry season and during many parts of the rainy season, we have great breezy conditions that make this area of Costa Rica the driest that you see. Really, there's a gradient from north to south that the norther you go, the less humidity and less rainfall you see on an annual basis. And the further south you go, you see more humidity and rain, even to the point where just south of us, still in Guanacaste, in the province, you've got more humidity and rainfall driving an hour south to the area down by Nosara or even further to Santa Teresa. You get that gradient. And one thing that a lot of people love about this particular area of Guanacaste is that, yeah, from December through April, you've got great, breezy, much less much more dry conditions. And even in the rainy season, like I showed a little bit earlier, we get this period of dry weather called El Veranillo that is breezy, wonderfully clear, blue skies, and not quite as oppressive when it comes to humidity that you might see the further south you go. Next, we had a question: is it possible to find a 3-bedroom place under $200,000 anywhere near Tamarindo? The answer to this question is a surprising yes as well. You'll see that most of the inventory under $300,000 anywhere near Tamarindo has dried up. Especially, it can be difficult to find 3-bedroom places because so many 2-bedroom condos are built in our market. But I actually have one particular listing. It's not my exclusive listing, that I was able to find a 3-bedroom that is within a relatively short drive to Tamarindo, that is listed at exactly $200,000. And at the very end of the live chat here, I'm going to have Danielle post the link to this property in the chat. If you want to find more affordable price points in Guanacaste, right now, one of the keys is going to be looking inland. The closer to the coast that you get, the higher the price point. And really, once you're inside the beach communities of Tamarindo or Potrero or Langosta, it's going to be difficult to find anything like what this viewer is seeking, a 3-bedroom at $200,000. But if you go inland, you can find larger condo and home projects that offer these sorts of options at a much different price point than what you find right up close to the coast. So I have a 3-bedroom condo to share with everyone at the very end of this broadcast, listed exactly at $200,000 just outside of Tamarindo in a project called Cabo Velas. I would say it's more like conservatively a 20-minute drive down into Tamarindo, but it does exist, and you can find those affordable options if you're willing to look inland. Finally, we have a question about the exterior building costs for a home. If you watched 2 weeks ago on my Sunday chat, I had a builder, Doug Stern, who quoted $130 per square foot as his cost to build a high quality, modest sized home, somewhere in the range of, let's say, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. That $130 per square foot did not include permitting and design, which he estimated would put you about 10% higher, maybe $145 final cost to build one of his homes. And someone had asked, well, what's the cost for those exterior spaces? And one thing to clarify is that when Doug quoted $140 per square foot, that includes, in a typical Costa Rica home, those below roof, screened in and livable, exterior spaces here in Costa Rica. $143, what he quoted, would be for a home that includes patios and perhaps screened in porches as part of their design. And in fact, when we were giving that interview, we were sitting in a 3-bedroom home that has some different indoor outdoor spaces that are included in that overall number of $130 per square foot for a quality built home. This person had also asked about pools and ranchos, etc. And I wanted to say that you can absolutely build very inexpensive outdoor spaces for, especially if you look at the roof that's needed for a carport. Here, for $15,000 to $20,000, you can have somebody build a carport out of just a simple steel structure that'll be square steel posts up to a simple roof with metal, just corrugated roofing. But for under $20,000, you can create a big enough parking area for your car. You can also obviously do those sort of outdoor ranchos out of wood, probably for even less cost, $10,000 or below if you did something simple. Pools down here are extremely costly. You've seen over the last year in Costa Rica, the cost of construction materials, just like everywhere in the world, have gone up about 30%. The cost of those, the machines, the pumps, everything that you need to run the pool have also skyrocketed. And recently, we had a modest, I think 15 by 20 foot pool built in our area, something that would definitely be above a plunge pool, but below sort of a really substantial, bigger lap pool that cost $35,000 to build. Now, even that has gone up, the price, I'm sure, since that was actually done. But $35,000 was for a medium-sized swimming pool that's actually about 5'6". Does get pretty deep at one end. But anyhow, that's sort of the cost you're looking at there, above and beyond your initial number of $130 per square foot for a modest home, between $1,500 and $2,000 here in Costa Rica. Before I go, I just want to quickly say thank you very much to Greg and everybody for tuning in. Appreciate your question, Greg. How to take a bus from Playa Lagarto to San Jose. And what I would actually do, Costa Rica's network of buses is incredibly strong. Unfortunately, from Lagarto, there aren't direct buses that I know of. There's a chance one leaves from Marbella, that they have a route like once per week that comes from a remote town into San Jose. But generally speaking, people who live in small towns here will first have to take a bus into a larger town that will serve as the node to get to San Jose. In the case specifically of Greg's question, there are daily buses every few hours running from Lagarto in to Santa Cruz, which would be your nearest node. I know that there are buses that leave Ostional and other small beach towns in that area once or twice per day. They pass through Lagarto and they're going to Santa Cruz. And from that node, you've got several different bus companies operating from the city of Santa Cruz into San Jose, with buses leaving pretty much every hour. So anytime you can get into Santa Cruz, your node, then you just need to find a bigger bus terminal, buy the ticket, and be sure to get on the bus from Santa Cruz to San Jose. Adan Morales also had a question. Will we see a downturn in the real estate market in Costa Rica, given that there's a crash happening in the U.S.? you're asking me to look into a crystal ball, and I refuse to try and speculate about that, but I can absolutely agree that an ongoing crash in the US, the change in the economy up there, is going to have an impact on the Costa Rica real estate market. There's no way to avoid it. When people start to feel economic pain up in the US, you're going to see fewer interested buyers here in Costa Rica looking to invest their money. Now, there are several things running contrary to that change that I feel are going to make the effects of a US economic crash a little bit duller, or rather that are going to soften the impact of a major crash in the US down here, and specifically in Guanacaste. He brought up that he feels real estate in Santa Ana is overpriced, or he's asking about that. Out here in Guanacaste, you've also seen a huge surge as people move down to Guanacaste looking for a refuge or that escape property. I very much feel that the urge to find this escape property, the refuge, is still going to drive a decent number of customers to our real estate market over the next 2, 3, 5 years, no matter what, even if there is a major crash in the US. One of the things that you quickly see change here is that the smaller investors, a lot of people who maybe had $250,000 or up to $500,000 that they were thinking of putting into a condo or modest home here in Guanacaste, those are the buyers that we really see start to withdraw from purchases, or the market segment that is most immediately impacted. You see in those economic moments of uncertainty, the folks that didn't necessarily have unlimited cash are very much more hesitant to put a large part of their nest egg into an investment. One of the biggest markets that's grown in Guanacaste over the last 5 years has been the luxury high-end segment of our real estate market. And those are the folks that I think will continue to sustain the momentum you've seen. There are still lots of people who are rushing to move out of California, New York, the coastal part of the US. Also, people leaving Toronto, Canadians who feel a very big urge to get out of their overheated, real estate market somewhere up there. Even with a coming crash in the US, we're still going to have a lot of people who see Costa Rica as an island of tranquility, an oasis in a turbulent world. And especially as we get more and more social conflict in other parts of the world, you see people continuing to move here. So yes, while I'm planning, my business around a change and the fact that the market will not be as hot as the US has its problems, I'm still planning on seeing plenty of buyers get off those planes in Liberia and San Jose, because so many people are looking for that refuge. Anyhow, as always, it's been a pleasure meeting with everybody today. Really appreciate you joining me now and for our next Sunday broadcast at 11 a.m. I'll sign off by mentioning the lot that I made a video about in Avellanas. To answer your question, that has already sold and is closed. And I also wanted to mention that the 3-bedroom home from the video with Doug Stern, that is also now under contract. If you'd like to look at the 360-degree virtual tour of that, send me an email to matt@cbpacificrealty.com. I now have another 3D tour of a 2-bedroom home in Tierra Pacifica that we could tour together virtually. Again, my name is Matt Rosensteel, owner-broker of Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty. Appreciate you joining me for this and our future Sunday chats with Costa Rica Matt. Have a great Sunday and pura vida.